Bhairavi was a name no one in the village dared to speak aloud after sunset, a name wrapped in fear, mystery, and the unending echo of something ancient that had once walked among them. The village of Nandipur was isolated, surrounded by dense forests, tall banyan trees whose hanging roots looked like frozen shadows, and an abandoned temple that people believed had been cursed for a century. The temple was dedicated to goddess Bhairavi, a fierce form of the divine, but the villagers whispered that the deity no longer lived there. Something else did, something that had consumed the sanctity into darkness. Arjun, a young archaeologist who had come from a city, knew nothing about these whispered warnings. He arrived with curiosity, notebooks, cameras, and an eagerness to explore the myths. His primary goal was to write about forgotten temples of rural India, and the Bhairavi temple stood at the top of the list. The villagers begged him to stay away. Old women joined hands, saying no one who went near the temple after dusk ever returned sane. Arjun dismissed it as superstition and went anyway, believing that logic and research were stronger than rumors. On his first day, he felt a strange heaviness in the air as he approached the temple. The sky was darker around it, the trees bent inward as if listening, and the wind carried whispers that dissolved the moment he tried to pay attention. The entrance had carvings of the goddess, multiple arms, sharp eyes, but they were worn out, chipped, as if someone had clawed at them. Inside, he found old manuscripts scattered across the dusty floor. The scent of incense mixed with damp moss, creating an unsettling fragrance. One manuscript caught his eye, a scroll with fading red ink. It told the story of a priestess named Bhairavi, not the goddess, but a girl dedicated to serving the deity. According to the scroll, Bhairavi possessed extraordinary powers. She could foresee storms, predict deaths, and even cure impossible illnesses. The villagers worshipped her as if she were divine, but with admiration came fear. When she was only 17, a terrible famine struck, and the people blamed her for angering the gods. They dragged her to the forest, tied her to a tree, and left her for the beasts. But 3 days later, she returned, not alive, not dead, but transformed. The scroll ended abruptly, leaving Arjun more intrigued than afraid. That night, he decided to stay near the temple to observe. As the moon rose, he felt a coldness unlike anything he had felt before. The silence thickened. Then he heard footsteps behind him, soft, rhythmic, deliberate. He turned quickly, but no one was there. When he lifted his camera to take a picture of the inner shrine, the lens fogged up instantly. The air became dense, as if he were underwater. Then he saw her. A woman in a red sari, hair uncombed, her face hidden under shadows, yet her presence unmistakably real. Arjun froze. The woman's feet didn't touch the ground. She floated an inch above. As she came closer, her anklets made no sound. Her head tilted at an impossible angle, and Arjun felt his breath collapse inside him. He tried to speak, but his voice dissolved into silence. She whispered his name, not once, but thrice, and though he had never introduced himself, she spoke it with familiarity, almost tenderness. Arjun stumbled backward, tripped over a stone, and ran out of the temple, leaving behind his notebook, camera, and courage. The villagers found him early next morning, unconscious near the riverbank. When he woke up, he could not speak a word of what he saw. His tongue felt heavy. His mind replayed the scene over and over, and every time he tried to sleep, the whisper of his name echoed inside his ears. Determined to confront the truth, Arjun returned to the temple the next evening. This time, he carried incense sticks, holy threads, and a dictionary of mantras he barely understood. The villagers watched from afar, shaking their heads, convinced he would never return. Arjun stepped inside and lit an oil lamp. The flame flickered aggressively, as if fighting an invisible wind. Suddenly the door slammed shut behind him with a force that shook the pillars. Darkness swallowed everything except the faint halo of the lamp. Then the shadows began to move. Slowly at first, then violently. They swirled like smoky tornadoes, wrapping around each pillar, spiraling into the center of the temple. The temperature dropped. Arjun's breath came out white. A sharp, metallic scent filled the air. The shadows coagulated into a form, the form of Bhairavi. This time, she revealed her face. Her eyes were hollow sockets, yet they glowed with a luminous red. Her skin was cracked like burnt clay, and her lips were darkened, stitched at the corners, as if silencing centuries of screams. She reached toward him with fingers that extended far beyond human length. Arjun screamed, but the sound never emerged. The shadows wrapped around him like chains. Suddenly, a booming voice filled the temple. "Why have you come?" Arjun trembled. He tried to speak through shaking lips. I want to know the truth." The air shuddered. Bhairavi's form solidified. She moved closer until her cracked face hovered inches from his. "Truth," she whispered. "Truth died with me." Her voice echoed like 1,000 cries layered on top of each other. Then, without warning, he saw flashes, visions of the night she died. The villagers dragging her, beating her, accusing her. Her screams for mercy. Her body tied to a tree. The beasts approaching. Her return, bloody, broken, carrying the weight of betrayal. Arjun saw everything through her eyes. The hatred, the pain, the rage. Tears rolled down his cheeks. "They wronged you," he whispered. Bhairavi's hollow eyes softened, just a little. "I want to be remembered," she said. "Not feared. Not erased." Arjun took a deep breath. "Tell me what you want." The temple walls groaned. The floor cracked. The lamp extinguished. Bhairavi's hands touched his temples. A burning sensation filled his skull. "Share my story," she whispered. "Let the world know who I was." In a flash of white light, she vanished. Arjun collapsed to the ground, gasping for breath. When he woke, he found himself outside the temple once again, but this time, he wasn't alone. His notebook, camera, and scrolls lay beside him, untouched. The villagers stood at a distance, terrified but curious. Arjun rose slowly and told them everything. The true story, the injustice, the betrayal, and Bhairavi's plea. For the first time in a century, someone spoke her name with reverence instead of fear. The villagers wept. They cleaned the temple, lit lamps, and offered flowers. The darkness lifted. The shadows no longer moved. Bhairavi's presence faded, but not before Arjun felt a gentle whisper in his ear. "Thank you." From that day onward, the village of Nandipur changed. The temple became a place of worship again, not dread. Tourists visited. Scholars documented the history. Arjun published his book titled Bhairavi, The Forgotten Priestess, and it became famous. But he never forgot the night he met her, the night she looked into his soul and showed him the truth. Sometimes, when he visited the temple alone, he still heard her anklets faint, gentle, grateful, and he knew she was finally at peace.